The Chicago Cubs, overwhelming underdogs coming into this series against the Atlanta Braves, the best team in the National League during the decade. But Kevin Tapani so far out-dueling Tom Glavine, a 1-0 ball game. Glad to have you with us on Fox, a home of this year's World Series, as Glenn Allen Hill drops one into right field. Like to remind you this week, another NFL Fox Sunday doubleheader, starting off with a classic NFC East matchup, the Cowboys and the Redskins, and later the Eagles and the Denver Broncos. Plus other regional action. Coverage gets underway noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, right here on Fox. Check your local listings. For the Broncos, Terrell Davis, maybe John Elway back over the weekend for the Super Bowl champions. Ball one to Gary Gaetti. Boy, it's just amazing how a guy, Bobby, pitch after pitch after pitch, has such pinpoint control to just live out there time and time again.
Yeah, I started to mention a couple innings ago about the theory of sending left-handed hitters to the plate against Glavine. Leo Mazzoni said that Glavine now throws his changeup to left-handed hitters. Early in his career, he would go fastball, slider to the lefties, and the slider was his third best pitch. And you get a look at those numbers on the season for Tom Glavine. I still believe, though, if you send left-handed hitters to the plate against Tom Glavine, it takes away his strength. That low and away pitch to a right-hander is low and into a left-hander, and most lefties, that's their power spot.
Gaetti gone on strikes. We move to the bottom half of the seventh. Still 1-0 Chicago.
What is Nicorette? Nicotine replacement gum. It helps you stop smoking cigarettes, but you don't chew it like regular gum. You bite Nicorette until it tingles. Then you hold it between your cheek and your gum. And you get a lower level of nicotine to help you fight your cravings. And as your cravings get fewer and fewer, you use less and less and less Nicorette until you use none. And none is a wonderful number.
Nicorette gum helps you fight your cravings, your habit, your way. You can do it. Nicorette can help.
It was one of those moments in life you want to keep. My husband thought he was getting dinner. My daughter, a new friend.
Time to cook the lobster!
When the moment came, I didn't have to worry about the light being low.
That's my lobster!
Or them turning out blurry because they were moving. With Kodak Max, I knew I'd get my picture.
Low light, sunlight, action, or still, Kodak Max is all you need to know about film.
Woo! I actually got in.
You broke into personnel.
Yeah, these are salaries of every person in the company.
Look, this senior VP makes about half as much as this senior VP. Bet he doesn't know that.
Sure he does. I just emailed everybody in the company.
Mexican pizza, crispy tortilla shells, luscious tomatoes, and a mouth-watering blend of cheeses. Mexican pizza, crispy tortilla shells, luscious tomatoes, and a mouth...
I think I'm in love.
Right now, get a crunchy, cheesy Mexican pizza for only 99 cents when you buy a large drink. That's over $1 off. Better hurry.
The 1998 National League Division Series on Fox is brought to you by AT&T. It's all within your reach.
Well, the Turner Field faithful hoping that the Braves can mount a charge against Kevin Tapani. Tapani has shut out Atlanta on 3 base hits. Tommy Glavine has only surrendered the same number of hits, but 1 run.
See pitches by inning, off to the rocky start, but had a breeze in the 6th.
And that was against Chipper Jones, Andres Galarraga, and Ryan Klesko. Big cut by Javier Lopez. It's 0-1. Lopez has walked and flying to center field. Well, you got to really hand it to Kevin Tapani. A very high ERA. He'll be the first to admit, much higher than he would have liked during the regular season, just under 5. But he found a way to win. 19-9 in his 34 starts. And bear in mind, Tapani was brought in out of the bullpen during the one-game playoff against San Francisco on Monday.
And he said that really helped him in his preparation for today's ball game. That would be his normal day to throw on the side. And when a starting pitcher throws on the side, obviously it's down in the bullpen, usually during a game or right before a game. No batters in the box. You just kind of play and catch with your catcher to get your arm loose. But because he came into the ball game and pitched a competitive inning, he felt that prepared him for tonight's game.
Over the mound, but Alexander is there, and Lopez retired to begin the 7th. Well, would you like a good scream? Well, tomorrow, television's scariest show returns for an all-new season, and whatever you do, don't dare miss the first 3 minutes. The season premiere of Millennium. What a great show. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Tomorrow, 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Fox. Rod Beck beginning to loosen up those fingers a little bit for that split finger fastball. We may see him in the 9th. What a year for Beck.
Boy, it's really been an amazing year. Not only the numbers that he's put up this year, the 50 saves, but the way he's done it, especially in the second half of the season down the stretch. I mean, he would be the first one to admit to you he was just pitching on fumes. Had very little fastball left.
High drive, but well foul. Andrew Jones hit that ball a ton.
This is a stage of a ball game. If you're a pitcher, you need to keep the ball away from the hitter's power. If they're going to beat you, force them to beat you to the opposite field. We mentioned earlier, Andrew Jones, tremendous pull power on pitches from the middle of the plate in. Not the same kind of power if you work him away and force him to hit the ball to the opposite field. And in a one-run ball game, obviously one swing of the bat can turn the game.
1-2 to Andrew Jones. Michael Tucker waits on deck. 1-0 Cubs, last of the 7th. Hit hard, but Gaetti is there, juggles. Long throw in time. Eight in a row retired by Kevin Tapani.
Well, Gary Gaetti doesn't have the same physical tools he had earlier in his career, but he's a much smarter player, positions himself correctly. Everything he's got on that throw across the infield to get the speedy Andrew Jones. That ball was hit very hard. You could see he fielded off the heel of the glove, pulled it back up into his body where he could control it, and was able to make the play.
Michael Tucker with 2 down and nobody on, looks at a ball low and away. Tucker has bounced into a fielder's choice. He walked. Went to second on a bunt by Glavine in the 5th. Was balked by Tapani to third base. He was there with only 1 away. At the time, a scoreless game. And then Tapani struck out Walt Weiss. Got Lockhart to end the inning on a fly ball to left field. And then the Cubs came to bat in the 6th inning. Got singles from Morandini in service. Tapani executed the bunt. And a ground out by Lance Johnson, the game's only run. Ozzie Guillen is moved into the on-deck circle. And there's a strike on the inside corner. The Braves bullpen springs to life for the first time tonight. Glavine has been terrific, but on the short end of a 1-run game, left-hander John Rocker set to go. 2-2 to Tucker. Two pitch into center field. It'll fall. A base hit for Tucker. So the evening is over for Tommy Glavine. Tucker keeps the 7th inning alive with a 2-out single, and Ozzie Guillen will come on to pinch hit.
Tom Glavine, Kevin Tapani, both with outstanding 98 regular seasons, and they carry it right over into the division series. Both men pitching an outstanding ball game tonight.
Close the book on Glavine. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. He walked only 1, struck out 8. Guillen, a fine pickup by the Braves after being let go by Baltimore. And of course, he played for many years in Chicago on the south side. First pitch swinging, fouls it out of play.
And with the injuries to Walt Weiss and Keith Lockhart in the middle of the infield this year, Ian was a very valuable member of the Braves. You see, he hasn't had a lot of luck against Tapani in his career, however.
Oh, and 1 Ozzie Guillen, pinch hitting for Tommy Glavine with 2 away and 1 on here in the last of the 7th. Chicago 1-0 lead. Runner goes, it's taken outside, throw to second, and it's dropped by Alexander. It looked like a good throw. A throw that would have cut down Tucker.
That's about as good a throw as you can make on a changeup. Tapani came with an off-speed pitch. The ball's obviously not going to get to the plate as quickly as a fastball. Service gets in good position. The strong throw right on the money. Alexander just does not catch the ball at second base. Had his eyes closed, as a matter of fact. He was anticipating some contact from the runner coming in from first, and it appeared he closed his eyes.
It's hard to catch it if your eyes are closed, isn't it?
That usually doesn't work too well. That's the way I tried to hit for 9 years, and it didn't work at the plate. I know that. Try to keep a look at his eyes right here, and mouth open, eyes closed. Ball hits the thumb of his glove and gets away.
The tying run in scoring position with 2 away, and the 1-1 again. On the ground, right back to Tapani. He flips to Grace, and the Braves are gone in the 7th. Tapani shut out baseball through 7. 1-0 Chicago.
Hold the count now. Oh no. Refill. Diet Dr. Pepper is the taste you've been looking for.
French, German. You're the genius behind the new Speak in a Week foreign language CDs. But can you say global distribution? You know linguistics, not logistics. Entree UPS. The same people you rely on here clear customs electronically and deliver to over 200 countries worldwide. Soon orders are rolling in and everyone's speaking your language.
Bonjour. My city of
UPS, moving at the speed of business.
Time magazine calls Ronin a sly masterpiece. 2 thumbs up, says Siskel and Ebert. A top-notch thriller, says the New York Times. More enjoyable than all the summer blockbusters put together. Robert De Niro. Ronin. Rated R. Now playing.
Oh, suki now. Hey! Come on!
Lever 2000, a tough deodorant clean, plus moisturizers for your skin. The touchable clean for all your 2000 parts.
See Meineke today and save. For a limited time, save a big 50% off lifetime brake pads and shoes.
At Meineke, you won't pay a lot, but you'll get a lot.
I guarantee it.
My dentist told me about this new gum.
It's in the toothpaste aisle.
This gum cleans, whitens, freshens?
Toothpaste aisle.
Toothpaste aisle.
New Arm & Hammer Dental Care Gum with baking soda reduces unsightly plaque up to 25%. Dental Care Gum.
Toothpaste aisle.
On Fox NFL Sunday, Dion and the boys battle the Skins. Then the Eagles take on the Broncos. It's a Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific.
Well, Kevin Tapani, every time he grips that baseball to uncork another pitch, he knows a precarious 1-0 lead, along with Bob Brenly, Tom Brenneman here at Turner Field in Atlanta as John Rocker comes on the pitch. And Bobby, the Cubs must feel all of a sudden, hey, maybe we have a chance.
And I really think we're going to see Jim Riggleman give Kevin Tapani every opportunity to finish this ball game. We know the Cubs bullpen is a little tattered, a little worn down. With Kerry Wood starting game 3, you figure to get in the bullpen because Wood has not started for a month. So I think we're going to see Jim Riggleman give Kevin Tapani every possible opportunity to finish this ball game.
John Rocker, the rookie, on the pitch in relief of Tom Glavine. The 0-1 to Morandini, who has scored the only run of the game, is fouled back. Rocker, well, you talk about a guy with a bright future.
You see his numbers on the season. This will be his 48th ball game. High strikeout total. Does walk a few batters from time to time. Throws in the upper 90s. Along with Rudy Cianez, the right-handed setup man in that Braves bullpen. These guys did a fine job of getting the ball to Kerry Lightenberg when the Braves had a lead.
Morandini gone on strikes. Hey, Tuesday, Bob Brenly's favorite show, King of the Hill, reveals a shocking secret. Then Road Rage hits Costello, followed by Guinness Book of World Records Prime Time, a night of all new episodes Tuesday, starting at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox. Right now, John Rocker, the King of the Hill for the Braves, trying to keep the Cubs without any further damage. It's 1-0 Chicago as Service looks at a fast strike.
Well, John Rocker is no trip to the beach. I mentioned he throws very hard, high 90s with a fastball, good sharp slider. But the Cubs hitters have to feel pretty good about getting Tom Glavine out of the ball game. At least now an opportunity to look for a pitch over the heart of the plate.
Broken bat flare is going to fall in Service. His second bloop single into right field. Like to remind you again to watch for the Gillette Mach 3 Strike Zone Challenge prior to Game 4 of the 1998 World Series here on Fox. You'll see a lucky fan. Maybe you'll be the lucky fan who will get a chance to throw a pitch for 2 million bones.
Well, even with 1 out in the inning here, we anticipate Tapani putting down a sacrifice bunt again. Did a great job of it in his last opportunity in the 6th inning, advancing Morandini in Service into scoring position. Lance Johnson drove Morandini in with the only run of the game.
Tapani pulls the bat away, and it's low, ball 1.
Now, this particular bunt situation, however, Tapani needs to bunt the ball to the right side of the infield. Galarraga is forced to hold the runner on at first base. He's getting a late start toward home plate. Chipper Jones already halfway into the plate.
Bunted foul, 1-1. Tapani has silenced Galarraga, Chipper Jones in this high-octane Atlanta Braves offense through the first 7 innings on just 4 base hits. 1-1. And again, fouled off, this time first base side. Keep the bunt on?
I think so. You know, Tapani, as you mentioned, does have a home run. He batted .133 on the regular season, but his chances of getting a base hit against a hard thrower like John Rocker are fairly slim. I think his chances of putting down a bunt are fairly slim, too. But I think they're going to take one more shot to try to advance Service to second base for the top of the order.
Service extends his lead with Galarraga holding him there. Tapani shortens up. And did he offer the pitch? No. It's down and in. 2-2.
A big breaking ball that time from John Rocker. Yeah, the general logic is in a bunt situation, you throw high fastballs, hoping to get the batter to pop the ball in the air. Rocker instead goes with a hard breaking ball down and in. Tapani's able to pull the bat back. Brings the count to 2-2.
Break-even pitch. Bunted again splendidly by Tapani. Galarraga gets the out, give Tapani his second sacrifice of the game. He had 5 the entire regular season. And it's what we talked about with Tapani earlier, Bobby. He just gets the job done.
Just finds a way to do what it takes to win ball games. Puts the bunt down perfectly. First base side, Galarraga calls off Rocker. Throws on to Lockhart covering first base. You see Scott Service in the back of your picture on his way to second. No play on him. And sets the table once again for the man with the only RBI in the ball game, Lance Johnson.
51,713 at Turner Field in Atlanta. The largest crowd ever to see a game in this ballpark. The Cubs are in town trying to even this series. Boy, if there's ever the David versus Goliath, in an opening round of a playoff, this is it. And the Cubs trying to tie it at 1 game apiece. And Johnson, first pitch swinging, is down a strike.
Rocker with a 96-mile-an-hour heater, and Lance Johnson with a very uncharacteristic swing. Normally a contact hitter likes to slap the ball around. That time he looked like he was going for the downs himself.
A ground out. Johnson to Lockhart has scored the game's only run. Service at second with 2 away. Good breaking ball there from Rocker. He brings you the gas, and then 84. That thing must look like it's 40.
Scott Service really needs to work on his secondary lead at second base in the event of a base hit. It's going to be tough to score.
0-2. Strike 3 called on the outside corner. The Braves will bat in the bottom of the 8th inning, and the top of the order due up 1-0 Chicago.
My mom's a big person. Fireman. My dad has this real important job with this big fancy office where he's the boss. He always eats lunch at these big fancy restaurants. And after he's done saving the world, we go home and play. I'd give him a 10. I drew a picture of you.
The 1999 Camry. Even heroes need a car.
This is a world only a few know well. A world of risk and uncertainty, where the roads can take you to success or prosperity, or sometimes to no place at all. This is the financial world. For decades, banks and investment firms of mountainous size have ruled the land. Yet high above the horizon, another mountain has risen. A mountain called First Union. With 16 million customers, the nation's 8th largest brokerage and 6th largest bank. For a new perspective of the financial world, come to the mountain called First Union. Or if you prefer, the mountain will come to you.
Hey. Matt, got your email. Vancouver? Genius. Pass it on to Epps. He's running it through the Northwest.
Hey, Matt. Ideas a hit in the Northwest. I've got purchasing checking suppliers.
You want it up top. Client briefing. Your Vancouver idea.
Want to take your business to the next level?
The 1998 National League Division Series on Fox is brought to you by Gillette Mach 3, the first triple blade razor, and by MasterCard, official card of Major League Baseball and fan of the great American pastime.
Turner Field in Atlanta. Kevin Tapani won 19 times during the regular season with an ERA of 4.85. And thus far, he has silenced the Atlanta offense. We open the bottom of the 8th. 1-0 Cubs in front. Walt Weiss to lead things off, and it's ball 1. They'll turn about fair play. Cub fans will tell you the Atlanta Braves have shut out the opposition 23 times this season, most by far in the National League. The Braves themselves only shut out 6 times. What a game here in Atlanta. 1-1 to Weiss. He'll be followed by Lockhart and then Chipper Jones. In the air, down the left field line, a long run for Glenn Allen Hill. He's got it in foul ground. 1 away.
Kevin Tapani working the outside part of the plate on Walt Weiss. You'll see the location of the pitch on catcher cam. Up and out over the plate. Weiss goes with the pitch. But Glenn Allen Hill has him played perfectly. Scampers over to the foul line to make the catch.
Kevin Tapani, a big, deep breath. The leadoff man retired. Last of the 8th inning. Cubs in front, 1-0, and now it's Lockhart, who has one of the 4 Atlanta hits in the game, but that was all the way back in the first inning. Tapani gave up 2 hits to the first 4 batters. He's only allowed 2 hits since. On the ground, Gaetti down on both knees. 2 away. And now Chipper Jones.
Well, once again, Gaetti has himself in perfect position to field this smash off the bat of Lockhart. Goes down to both knees to block it. He knows he has time to recover and make the strong throw to first base. No problems there.
Jones, 34 home runs during the regular season. He looks at ball 1, and we mentioned earlier, Jones a switch hitter. 32 of those 34 home runs have come when batting left-handed. Tapani has struck him out 3 times tonight. Did he go? No, on the appeal to third base. Frank Pulley, the umpire. Larry Wayne Jones, nicknamed Chipper, a chip off the old block. His father, a high school baseball coach, and another monster year for him. 3-0 with Galarraga waiting on deck.
And once again, we mentioned it earlier in the ball game, Bobby Cox is notorious for turning his hitters loose on 3-0 counts. If it's a pitch they think they can handle, they've got the green light to go ahead and swing away. You have to believe Chipper Jones has the green light here, but he's looking for 1 pitch in 1 location.
Terry Mulholland gets loose in the Chicago pen. And there is ball 4. Rod Beck has just started to warm up, joining Mulholland in the Chicago bullpen. Galarraga coming to bat, representing the go-ahead run here in the 8th.
Well, Mulholland is ready to come into the ball game. He's a very quick reliever. He gets loose in a hurry. You can see he's not even throwing right now. He's been up since the beginning of the inning. You can see him shaking his head no. They were asking, is Rod Beck ready? Mulholland asked him, then shook his head no to the bullpen coach that no, Rod Beck is not ready yet.
Galarraga led Atlanta with 44 home runs on the season. He gets jammed with a pitch and pops it up. It should end the 8th, and it will. Kevin Tapani, 8 innings, 4 hits, no runs. Cubs 1, Braves nothing.
Insuring over 40 million people worldwide.
Hey there, this is your Colonel talking. Now I got something here that's downright fun. My new popcorn chicken. Crunchy morsels of tender white meat. It's mouth-popping good. Woo, look at them go. Hurry down to KFC, try my new popcorn chicken for $1.99. It's more fun than watching me, unless, of course, Colonel get funky. Go, Colonel. Go, Colonel. At KFC, we do chicken right, and not just in a bucket, neither.
It was one of those moments in life you want to keep. My husband thought he was getting dinner. My daughter, a new friend.
Time to cook the lobster!
When the moment came, I didn't have to worry about the light being low.
That's my lobster!
Or them turning out blurry because they were moving. With Kodak Max, I knew I'd get my picture.
Low light, sunlight, action, or still, Kodak Max is all you need to know about film.
Basically, I guess my job is to break stuff. We try to think of everything that a customer might do and try that against the software. How do we not lose our traction on the live stuff? And if we find something, then we can make it better. Because once the customer gets the software, it needs to work. Okay, so the automation results. Software is tough to make, but our job is to make it the best it can be.
Most strippers have hard rules.
No touching, no groping, no kissing.
But these guys are easy.
Okay, everything goes.
An all-new Getting Personal tomorrow on Fox.
Kevin Tapani, 8 innings, 4 hits, no runs, and 100 pitches exactly. We'd like to remind you, NBC will bring you Game 3 in the American League Division Series between the Yankees and the Rangers. Bob Costas, Joe Morgan on the call, then ESPN. 4 in the afternoon tomorrow. Series tied 1 apiece, Cleveland and Boston. We're right here on Fox. Coming your way on Saturday, Joe Buck, Tim McCarver with Cleveland and Boston. We'd like to remind you this copyrighted telecast presented by authority of the Commissioner of Baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. Rudy Cianes now on to pitch from the Atlanta bullpen. Cubs lead 1-0. We open the 9th inning. Alexander, Grace, and Sosa due up. Alexander, first pitch swinging, pops it up to Walt Weiss. And he makes the play. Our Dr. Pepper play of the game. One away, a rope off the bat of Andres Galarraga. And how about this, Glenn Allen Hill?
I'll tell you, that's not an easy play to make. On the dead run, that ball is going away from you and sinking at the same time. It's not very high above the lights of the stadium. A lot of things working against him, but Glenn Allen Hill made a great play.
Mark Grace with nobody on and 1 out. Strike 1. What a year for Cianes. You can say that about Rockers, Cianes, Leitenberg, right on down the line.
Good look at Cianes' numbers on the season. A very hard thrower, 50 strikeouts in 36 innings pitched. Also has a very good straight changeup.
Grace is 1 of 3 against him, and there was a changeup. Strike 2 called. Grace didn't like it. Grace now, Sosa next in the Chicago 9th. If you're looking ahead of the bottom of the 9th, it'll be Klesko, Lopez, and Andrew Jones for the Braves. That missed inside. Bobby, if you're Jim Riggleman, you leave Kevin Tapani in the game or bring in Rod Beck?
I personally would send Tapani back out there. He has Mulholland and Beck both ready by this point. If Tapani gets into any trouble, perhaps at that point you go to the bullpen. But I think the young man has pitched well enough tonight to deserve to go out there and have an opportunity to finish this ball game. Also, as I mentioned, that rests that bullpen one more day. You have to anticipate you're going to need some relief pitchers in the Kerry Wood start at Wrigley Field.
2-2 to Grace. Line in the straightaway center. Andrew Jones has it. Second out of the inning. Quiet night for Sosa after a couple of base hits in the opener yesterday. He walked in the second inning, was thrown out stealing to end that frame. He has since popped to second and struck out, but that was against Tom Glavine.
Well, the natural movement on Cianes' pitches is to tail back into the right-handed hitting Sammy Sosa. If Cianes tries to paint that outside corner and gets movement back over the heart of the plate, we may see Sammy launch one.
Sammy Sosa made it very, very clear over the last month of the season. The home run chase with Mark McGwire was great as he pops that ball back out of play. But Sosa much more concerned about the Cubs reaching the postseason for the first time since '89. He has something to shoot for, that's for sure.
That is way up there.
Slam it here, Sammy. Told you a lot of Cub fans in attendance tonight at Turner Field. The largest crowd ever to see a game here in this ballpark. 51,713. Fly ball right field. The wind will blow this to Tucker's left. And he has it to retire the side. Ryan Klesko, Javier Lopez, Andrew Jones due up. Bottom of the 9th inning. Tapani will go to the mound.
In a world where every second counts, A quick call can make a big difference.
Cordell, I think the safety will bite on the play action.
All right.
Try.
Thanks, Pop. That's why now all calls under 30 seconds are free. Introducing Sprint Sense Anytime, where all calls are a dime a minute and calls under 30 seconds are on our dime. Call 1-800-PIN-DROP for Sprint Sense Anytime. Thanks, Pop.
I broke the window again.
Steve and Doug Butabi. They're giving the uncool
You guys want to make out or what?
a chance to rule.
Hey, what's up? Call you sometime, Pocahontas?
This fall, think Roxbury.
How you doing?
A night at the Roxbury.
Score! Very nice!
Rated PG-13. Everywhere Friday, October 2nd.
Gatorade. Is it in you?
Well, Gary, what Nintendo sports game would you like to play today?
There's Kobe Bryant and NBA wiping the floor with Gary courtside. Major League Gary bashing with Ken Griffey Jr. NHL Gary's going down on ice. WWF Gary in the turnbuckle war zone.
What?
Nintendo Sports. What friends are for.
What?
31,000 feet, 6 gunshots. 3 minutes of sheer terror. Millennium, the season premiere, tomorrow at 9, 8 Central.
Kevin Tapani takes a mound, bottom half of the 9th inning. And you see the numbers, a brilliant outing by Tapani, trying to even this series at a game apiece headed back to Chicago Saturday. The Cubs have not won a postseason game since October 5th of 1989. That's when they beat the Giants 9-5 at Wrigley Field. The only man remaining from that team, Mark Grace. 0-1 to Klesko. 0-2. Klesko has struck out, singled, and fouled out to third. High and away. 1-2 to Ryan Klesko. Straightaway center field. Lance Johnson. First out. Bottom of the 9th.
Perfect example of making a power hitter hit the ball to the opposite field. Tapani, after strike one on the inside part of the plate, consistently worked Klesko away. If he's going to beat me, he's going to have to beat me to the big part of the ballpark. I would anticipate a similar approach here to Javi Lopez, another guy that can beat you with the long ball.
Javier Lopez with one away, bottom of the 9th. Lopez looks at ball one outside. Lopez has walked, fly to center, bounce to short. He had 34 home runs during the regular season. The Braves a swing away from tying the game. Long drive, deep left field, and the game is tied.
players, those guys that come through in clutch situation. Javi Lopez with his 6th career postseason home run on one of the very few mistakes Kevin Tapani made in this game.
And now it's Andruw Jones. He's down a strike.
Look at the swing. Ball carries deep into left center field. Glenn Allen Hill can only look on.
And now the Braves a swing away from winning the game. In the bottom of the 9th inning, a one-out solo blast by Lopez has tied it at 1. And the 1-1 to Jones is outside. The left-hander Terry Mulholland, the right-hander Rod Beck, ready to go. 2-1 to Andruw Jones. Good off-speed pitch there from Tapani, and he's ahead. Javier Lopez, clutch. Two-two pitch. Shallow right field coming in. Sosa, he's got it. 2 away.
Ball cued off the end of the bat of Andruw Jones. Wasn't hit very hard to right field, and the wind also knocking that ball down. Sosa with a long way to run, playing very deep, makes the basket catch about knee-high. Hey, when you talk about a player's speed, many times you just think about base running, but that speed comes into play in many different facets of this game.
Michael Tucker, 1 for 2, has drawn a walk. On the ground at Grace, and we are headed for extra innings. The Braves and the Cubs in Game 2 of the National League Division Series. In the 9th, Javier Lopez ties a game with a home run.
We must band together to fight Spyro and his head-butting, sheep-burning ways. This isn't just a video game. It's a Spyrocracy.
$129?
Stay away from Spyro.
$29? See ya. PlayStation.
It's about peace. It's about love. And it's just about over. So join the millions who've already been to McDonald's for a chance to get back with Big Mac. Buy a Big Mac or large or medium soft drink and you can still get a coupon for something groovy on your next visit. Who knows, you might even get a coupon for a 49-cent Big Mac or 18-cent fries. So hurry in, because the 60s can't last forever. Did somebody say McDonald's?
It's all so... This is Hugh. This is my son. He started on drugs when he was 16. When his life became confused, unreal, filled with horrifying hallucinations, he ended his life. Get between your kids and drugs any way you can if you want to save the kid's life.
A record that stood for 37 years. A chase that captivated our nation. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, announcing Race for the Record, the official home video from Major League Baseball. Call 1-800-537-7070 to relive the drama, the emotion, the celebration of this historic event. Call 1-800-537-7070 to order this special collector's video. Only $19.95 plus shipping and handling. Own a piece of baseball history. This has been a message from Major League Baseball.
31,000 feet, 6 gunshots, 3 minutes of sheer terror. Millennium, the season premiere, tomorrow at 9, 8 Central.
111 pitches in the ball game for Kevin Tapani. One of only a few mistakes that he made in the ball game. Got a fastball up over the heart of the plate. Javi Lopez sitting on it, and Kevin Tapani sees an evening's worth of excellent pitching go by the boards.
And Atlanta Cox celebrates as this game is now in extra innings. First time since October the 2nd of '96 that a National League Division Series has gone into extra innings, and Atlanta was involved, beating the Dodgers 2-1 at Dodger Stadium. Kerry Ligtenberg is now on the pitch for the Braves. Javier Lopez, very short amount of time in the major leagues, has come up huge in the postseason. And what a year for Ligtenberg. Mark Wohlers ran into all kinds of control problems. He is not on the postseason roster for the Braves. Ligtenberg took over as their closer and did a sensational job. 2-2 to Glenn Allen Hill. He'll be followed by Gary Gaetti and Mickey Morandini. Two to Glenn Allen Hill. It missed low and away. Full count. Cubs back, top of the 10th inning. We're tied at 1. The Cubs scored in the 6th on a ground out by Lance Johnson that scored Mickey Morandini. And Javier Lopez, a home run in the bottom of the 9th inning, evened it up. Well, there's not a lot of experience in that Atlanta bullpen outside of Dennis Martinez, as you see the numbers on Ligtenberg. The first rookie since Todd Worrell to save 30 or more games. Leo Mazzoni, Bobby, told us very early in the year after Ligtenberg took over as the closer, he was a right-handed setup man in the bullpen. And Mazzoni said, hey, the thing I love about this kid is he's pitching the 9th the same way he did the 7th and the 8th.
Just give him the ball. He only knows one way to go out there. Hard sinker, hard slider.
He has walked Glenn Allen Hill to begin the 10th. Perhaps nervousness on the part of Ligtenberg. We asked him about that going into postseason play yesterday.
I saw Greg today, and he's, he thinks I'm real nervous about being in the postseason. He's like, just relax, because I get nervous too. And I told him that I get more nervous doing like this sort of thing, talking in front of a camera, than I do going out on the field.
So now the batter, Gary Gaetti, and a throw sends Hill back to the bag.
Well, Ligtenberg does have limited postseason experience. Last year against the Florida Marlins in the LCS. Pitched 3 innings in a couple of ball games, struck out 4 batters, didn't walk anybody, gave up only 1 hit.
Gaetti asked to bunt and does so perfectly as Galarraga throws onto the covering Lockhart and give Gary Gaetti the sacrifice, getting Glenn Allen Hill the go-ahead run into scoring position.
Had to be a heartbreaking sensation for Kevin Tapani to hear the sound of that ball coming off the bat. See the trajectory as it left the infield, and no doubt in your mind it was headed for the seats in a tie ball game.
They will intentionally walk left-handed batting Mickey Morandini, who has delivered as many clutch base hits for the Cubs as anyone else on the entire team this year. You have Service on deck. But let's see if Jim Riggleman will take him down, and he will. Henry Rodriguez now comes into the on-deck circle, helmet on, bat in hand, and will hit for Service. The left-hander, Dallas Perez, the right-hander, the long-time veteran, Dennis Martinez. Does Bobby Cox counter here and bring in Perez to face Rodriguez?
I think he's probably going to stick with Kerry Ligtenberg. Ligtenberg throws a lot harder than Odalis Perez, even though Ligtenberg is a right-hander. Henry Rodriguez had thought of having slider speed bat, although it looks like Bobby Cox is waiting till he's announced, and he is going to make the change.
So we'll take a break. The Cubs have 2 on, 1-1 game in the 10th. Back in a moment.
My cousin Al still swears he never gets enough to eat. So tonight we did the only thing we could. We took him back to the Olive Garden for more of their never-ending pasta bowl. Now they added a new pasta, rigatoni and spicy arrabbiata sauce. You pick any of the special pastas you like, and you get all the free refills you want, plus all the salad and breadsticks. The food keeps coming, and the fork keeps going until you say when for $6.95. Now, I'm not sure, but I think my cousin Al just said when.
Are you done? Yes, I am.
The Olive Garden. When you're here, your family.
I wish I had an elephant. An elephant who'd always play with me. Bye-bye. But wishes are like elephants. They're bigger than can be.
Okay, maybe you can't give her everything her heart desires, but with the humongous purchase power of the Visa Platinum card, maybe you can. And besides, you never know what she'll want next.
Is there anything else, an only real thing to do? Anything else I need, except cold and you. No, there's nothing else I'll do besides Coca-Cola. There's only you. Come on, give me a Coke, baby. Give me some of that real thing. Come on.
Trains now go 300 miles an hour. Mail, 3,000 miles a second. Athletes continually break records. So how come pain relief isn't faster? Introducing Advil Liquid Gels, the first and only pain reliever in a faster-acting liquid-filled capsule that's gentle on your stomach. On tough pain, Advil Liquid Gels are stronger and faster than extra-strength Tylenol. Headaches to muscle aches. New Advil Liquid Gels. Advanced medicine for pain. Just got faster.
On Fox NFL Sunday, Deion and the boys battle the Skins. Then the Eagles take on the Broncos. It's a Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific.
1-1 game, top of the 10th inning. 1 out and 2 on, and a long-time Brave, Jeff Blauser, will be sent up to bat against the left-hander Perez. Jim Riggleman taking down Henry Rodriguez. Of course, Blauser, a #1 pick by the Braves back in 1984. Blauser spent 14 years in the Atlanta organization, makes his home here in an Atlanta suburb. Had a monster 1997, then left the Braves and signed with the Cubs as a free agent. And now has a chance to give his new team a lead against his former team. Perez out of the bullpen with Hill at second and Morandini on at first. And Blauser is down a strike.
See what Jeff Blauser has done in his career. 12 major league seasons, 56 postseason games. See his years with the Braves, and of course a World Series title in 1995 with the Braves. Left-hander Odalis Perez on for the Braves. Sinker slider type pitcher. You will probably only see him in night games in this series. He is not allowed a run in a night game this year. His ERA in the daytime is over 19.
2 on, 1 out. The 0-1 to the former Brave Blauser. Missed outside, a ball, a strike. Many have felt that this Brave bullpen, the Achilles heel of this team going into the postseason with no Mark Wohlers. They know they have great starting pitching, but a lot of inexperience in the pen. Leitenberg retired only 1 batter. He walked 2. Good fastball there, and it's 1-2. Atlanta bullpen still busy. Dennis Martinez stays up, the right-hander, and he's joined by the left-hander Denny Nagel. Two on, 1 out. 1-2 pitch to Blauser. Kevin Tapani could still win this game if Chicago were to take the lead here in the 10th inning. And then Rod Beck save it in the bottom half of the 10th. And the Cubs are banging on the door with Glenn Allen Hill at second base and Mickey Morandini at first. Only 1 out. 1-2 to Blauser. Runner going to third. Throw down, and Glenn Allen Hill steals third base. How about that?
Well, I'm sure this is Glenn Allen Hill just reacting on his own out there. He saw Perez paying very little attention to him. The big leg kick and the delivery to home plate. Glenn Allen Hill gets a walking lead, runs right into the movement to third base. Strong throw to third, but as you can see, Glenn Allen Hill was already on the bag, had his momentum going that way. Takes a quick peek in to see what's happening at home plate and slides in with no tag.
The go-ahead run for the Cubs is Hill at third base with only one out. And Jeff Blauser a chance to do his former team in here in the 10th.
And we mentioned it's been a very emotional season for the Cubs. Been into every play of this ball game as they have every game throughout the summer.
2-2 to Blauser. It missed inside. The count is full. Jeff Blauser had such a great season for Atlanta last year. They elected not to sign him as a free agent. And he has had, quite honestly, a miserable season in Chicago this year. But, oh, a chance to make amends.
I was about to say a base hit right now would change all that.
The infield draws in for the Braves. Go-ahead run at third base. Over at first, it's Morandini. 3-2 pitch from Perez, and here she comes. Check, swing, and a miss. Throw down to second base. Out at second base. We go to the bottom of the 10th. The Cubs miss a golden chance.
You're watching Fox, home of the 1998 World Series.
Winter's coming, and before you know it, you'll be up to your fenders in the green stuff. That's right, the green stuff. Presenting $2,500 cash back on Bravada, the one SUV with the Smart Track system. It automatically adjusts to changing road conditions, making it the perfect year-round vehicle. So visit your Oldsmobile dealer and play in the green stuff while you can.
Everything went beautifully in there. Let me explain the procedure, the logoectomy we call it. First, we remove the old logo. No pain, I assure you. Then, in the now empty cavity, we carefully implanted the new logo.
Well,
everything will function normally. You'll notice changes. You'll like them.
From genetics to marketing, PorkNet gives independent producers the competitive edge. To join PorkNet, see your FS Swine specialist.
Folks, can I have your attention? Here's a special announcement from Direct Factory Outlet.
On October 5th, Direct Factory Outlet will be carpeting the entire store. This means all floor models must be liquidated immediately. You heard right. Total liquidation. We'd rather sell it than move it. Everything must go. If you've been looking for new furniture, now is the time. All reasonable offers will be accepted. Bedroom sets, dinette sets, sofa sets, all drastically discounted. Hurry for best selection. Direct Factory Outlet's floor model sale, 1209 Towanda Avenue, Bloomington.
Get a look at Morandini with a very bad jump at first. You play this like a hit and run in a 3-2 count. Walt Weiss up in front of the bag to take the throw in the event that Hill tries to break for home plate. He applies the tag up to the chest of Mickey Morandini. Morandini's insisting that his foot was on the bag before the tag was applied. Randy Marsh right on top of the play. Very close. Even with several replays, very tough to make the call.
Bottom half of the 10th inning, we're tied tied at 1. Greg Colbrin to pinch hit. And facing a new Chicago pitcher, and what a season it's been for Terry Mulholland, both out of the bullpen and as a starter down the stretch. Look at those numbers.
Terry Mulholland has been probably the most valuable pitcher on this staff this year. Started a couple games early in the season, pitched out of the bullpen for most of the season, forced back into the rotation at the end of the season. Of course, we all know the other day the outstanding 8-inning performance, came back and pitched an inning of relief the next day.
Ball hit hard into right field. Sosa's there for the first out in the 10th. A critical game for both teams. For the Braves, a chance to go ahead 2-0. For the Cubs, hope always springs eternal. The key word being in the spring. Hear that?